even if you cheat on your study guide, like you get all the answers from someone else and you get, 100 out of 100 for the class points, that's not going to mean crap if you get like a 50 out of 100 on your unit test or something like lower than that. You need to know how to do that. The numbers will be different on your real test, so just memorizing these answers is not going to help you. You have to actually know how to get there. So if you want to follow along, I highly recommend it. Take notes. Even if you're locked out of your computer, you could get some answers by taking notes. But number 3 was the first request, right? Okay. So. Okay, yes. All right, so number 3 was the first request. It says, in which of the following intervals is the graph increasing? And it gives you the intervals down here. So let's look. -5 to +5. So I could do the math and figure out the average rate of change. However, I might not need to. So let's just kind of see. There's parts where it's increasing, parts where it's decreasing, and then increasing. So maybe I don't really want to make a decision on that one yet. We'll table that one. Look at the next option. So -5 to +0, or not +0 to 0. So from here to here, is it both increasing and decreasing? Yes. Yeah, from here to here it is. So maybe I don't want to make a decision on that one yet. Check for 2 to 5. So where x is 2 to 5. Is it increasing the whole time? Yep, it is from here to here. So that's probably gonna be my answer. But let's check 0 to 4 just for fun. All right, so from here to here, is it increasing the whole time? No, there's parts where it's decreasing, so that might make it 0, that might make it more one than the other. You could do the math and figure it out, like average rate of change, but I'm not gonna waste my time because in this interval, it's only increasing. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. Number 9 was the next request. All right, so here's number 9. I will let you know they did remove this from the district test. However, I already printed the test beforehand. So either way, I'll show you how to do it. I'll make this question extra credit on your test, and then you could get some extra credit. But the only reason it was removed is because we didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about what an arithmetic sequence is. We mentioned it briefly, but I don't know if you remember what it is. Anyone remember? No. Okay. Well, maybe if we look at the pattern of the numbers, maybe you'll figure it out. By the way, if you were doing this yesterday, you would have seen a 16 right here. I had to fix it. Okay, so just note that change. You might have it might only change if you do like a new submission. So if you're looking at an old submission, just know this is what it should be now. All right, anyway, looking at the numbers, is there a pattern going on? Oh, yes. What is it doing each time? Okay, so that is why it is an arithmetic sequence, because we are adding each time. When we are adding each time, does that make it linear or exponential? Wait. Well, think about it. Exponential. Linear. What does the formula for linear equations look like? And then what does the formula for exponentials look like? Y equals A times B of the power of X. So which equation, linear or exponential, has adding in it? So that makes this a linear function. So if you notice, look at the equation that they give. It has different letters, but it's still in the form y equals mx plus b. All right, so arithmetic sequences you associate with linear functions because that's adding each time, like how they are. All right, now What's my average rate of change? 5, good. So that goes in place for your M, also known as your slope / average rate of change. So that's what we're doing each time. And then B stands for, no, that's not appropriate. And I have it on recording, so you know.
Why?
Okay. B stands for what? Y-intercept. All right, so y-intercept is helpful if you have a graph. We don't in this one. So think of how else we define y-intercepts other than it crossing the y-axis.
Where x is 0.
Good. So the definition that will probably be helpful to you is when x equals 0. Now notice we have a of 1, a of 2, a of 3, a of 4. So I can see how some of you might think like, oh, my starting amount is 2. Really, you would have to figure out what a of 0 is. So continue the pattern backwards. So opposite of adding 5 would be 2 minus 5. And that's what goes in here. Because so it goes this as your formula in slope intercept form. And it only wants to know what P is, which is in the y-intercept. Alright, so that's why it's tricky. That's why I'm gonna make it extra credit. So now you guys know how to do it and can do it for tomorrow. But I didn't expect you to know really before today. So questions on this one? Okay. Any other requests? 0. Number 7 on the study guide.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, this one has some funky language in it. And behavior. I still think you could have figured it out. But let's see. And either way, you'll learn and then you can do it on your test. So here's the given graph. You pick the correct end behavior. So like where it ends. It says as x approaches 0. So 0 on the x would be like at the origin, right? Y approaches -1. All right, it does touch there on the graph, so I agree with that. But is that the end of my graph? Right here? So then I don't think it's going to be the first one. I don't know if these answers are shuffled on your screen, but I don't think it's going to be as x approaches 0, y approaches -1. So I can already cancel that one out based off of that. On the next one, it says, as x approaches -infinity, so as it goes to the left, right here where my mouse is, y approaches 0. So is this also where y is 0? So it might be that one. Let's see if the rest of it is right. So far that looks good. As y approaches -infinity, which would be downward, x approaches +infinity. What do you think? Is that true?
No.
So I would say, I think it is, because isn't it getting a little bit wider each time? So eventually it will touch all the x's, right? Like I could have an infinite number of time, which is what x usually is. And it's definitely going toward the -infinity on the y. So I would pick the second one. But if you check the other ones, there's stuff that's wrong with them. So like, as x approaches -infinity, y approaches infinity. So would you say that here the y is also going upward? Nope, it's going straight to the left, so not that one. Pay attention. As y approaches -infinity, x approaches -infinity. So as y goes down infinitely, is it also going to the left infinitely? So then it's not that one. Question for the left. Yes. All right, any other questions on this one? All right, other questions then. Camille? Number 8. Okay, you do that. I don't care where, just don't make them full on noise, whoever you're with. All right, break this off. You guys are Conversations are all in my recording.
Oh, then you can expose them.
Yes. All right, so this one. Which of these is or describes a geometric sequence, which we mentioned briefly, but you may or may not know what that is. We'll talk about it in a second. But one thing we did mention is common ratio. You guys should definitely know what common ratio is. And it wants to know which one has a common ratio of 4. So where have you seen common ratio? In the exponential function formula. What's that formula again? And which one of these is the common ratio?
B.
Good. So notice in our formula, the common ratio is the one that we multiply by to get to the next number. It's also the one with the exponent on it, but if we're multiplying by 4, because my common ratio is 4, I'm multiplying by 4 to get the next number. And it says select 3 answers that are correct. I think that's very nice of them to tell you how many correct answers they are. A lot of the times they just say select all, and you have to still check every single one, but you don't know how many there are. So you know now that there's 3. So table 1, look at the first one. Can I multiply -5 times 4 to get -1? So then don't pick that one. Table 2, look at the second one. Can I multiply 0 by 4 to get 4? No. So don't pick that one. Table 3, look at the third one. Can I multiply 1 by 4 to get 4?
Yes.
Can I multiply 4 by 4 to get 16?
Yes.
16 by 4 to get 64?
No. Yes.
64 by 4 to get 256?
Yes.
So then I want to pick that one. You do also want to make sure the pattern is consistent throughout. That's why I put that. All right, so that one looks good. Table 4. Is this one going to be one of my answers?
No.
And you're not.
Oh, sorry.
And why not? Because it's not multiplying by 4. It's multiplying by 1/4, but that's not what it wants for the common ratio. It wants multiplying by 4. 20 times 4 is not 5, so don't put that. Table 5, would this one be an answer?
Yes.
Strange. 0.05 times 4 is 2.
Bye yo.
0.2 times 4 is 0.8. And it keeps going. Okay, good. Table 5, would this one be an answer? The one that I got. Table 5. Or wait, table 5? Okay, whatever. Do you guys know it? I didn't mean to call it. Okay, table 6, do you know it? Would that one be an answer?
No.
And why not?
Sure, but I found other things I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, so we found the other 3. The giveaway is that it's multiplying by 1/4. It's not 4. So that's why it's not that one. Even though this is a funky looking equation, you may or may not recognize it, but we're not multiplying by 1/4. For sure. Table 7, is it gonna be this one that my mouse is on?
No.
And why not? Because why? Table 8, do we know why this one is not an answer? So does it look like we're multiplying by 4? It's adding 4, not the same as multiplying by 4. Remember, common ratio is what you multiply by to get the next number. Table 9, will it be the next answer?
No.
Why?
Don't know. Maybe it's no.
Okay. Is it perhaps in what formula does this look like? This answer option, does it look familiar?
Yes.
is the 4 in the B position.
Yes.
So then I should pick this one, because it has a common ratio of 4. All right, we found our 3 answers, but just for fun, table 1, is it gonna be the last one?
No.
And why not?
We're not exponentializing that one.
Correct, so common ratio is multiplying by 4, not raising to the power of 4, that would be different. So questions on this one? No. Questions on others, and remember, it could be from the constructed response or the puzzle piece. Still, number 5? On this one. Okay, so for which of the following intervals is the average rate of change of the function shown below to equal 1? So a few ways you can solve it. Also, it says select all that apply. I understand in this one, it only lets you select one, but just know it might not be that way on your test. So there can be more than one answer if it says select all. Now, average rate of change should trigger a certain formula in your head, right? What is that formula? Good, you could do this formula, or I think because we're dealing with this, where it wants to know which one is equal to 1, I think this one might also be useful. The change in y divided by change in x. But they both mean the same thing. So I could like process of eliminate some areas of my graph because it wants my average rate of change to be equal to 1. Is that a positive or a negative? It's a positive one. So in that case, would my graph be increasing or decreasing in that section of it? Increasing. So any areas where it's decreasing, make sure you don't include that as an answer. Any areas where it's completely flat, don't include that as an answer because that would be a rate of change of 0. So let's look at our option. So from 0 to 1 on the x, so that's an x in the middle. When I go from, let me look because I can't see that part. When I go from 2 to 3, how much am I increasing by? 1. When I go from 0 to 1, how much am I increasing by on the x? What's 1 divided by 1? So it looks like that's gonna be my answer. But it may or may not be that easy on your test. If it says select all, you still have to check them all. From 1 to 2, do I even need to do the math for that section? You shouldn't because it's decreasing, you know, whatever the rate of change is, it'll be negative, which is not what it wants. So we'll take that one. From 2 to 3, do you need to do any math for that section? No, because what's the average rate of change if it's flat? 0, which is not the same as a positive 1. So we'll pick that one. From 3 to 4, so from here to here, what is the y changing by if I'm going from 1 to 8? Changing by 7. And then what's the x changing by from 3 to 4? So that one has an average rate of change set. All right, that's why I think this one's easier if you have graphs like this. But either way, the first one's the only one that has an average rate of change. So good? Yes.
And we do number 1.
All right. All right, so number 1, this one, you have to really understand function notation. On a side note, on your quiz that you took that had function notation in it, I just feel like you guys should have gotten that right. Really only a small handful of you did. But you should be able to see like your inputs and outputs, whether it's in an equation, whether it's in a coordinate, whether it's in a graph or a table. So I'm just not understanding. All right, so maybe this will help you. The first part, it says when x equals 0, f of x equals blank. So what do I do to figure that out? Jonathan, yes, what do I do to figure that first part out? In which function?
What's that?
Well,
Oh,
what
oh.
is the blank attached to?
I don't know.
So in this function, f of x, anywhere that there is an x, it wants it to be what class? Thanks, class.
0.
A 0, because it says when x equals 0. So that's what it looks like. The left side is just notation, so leave that side alone. The right side, you could throw all in the calculator. I don't really trust you to do it by hand, but honestly. So when you do that, we get 3, that's what goes in the blank. For f of x equals blank for that person. When it's 0, it equals 3. Question? All right, now the next part of that same row says, and f of x blank g of x. Well, putting in a number would not be helpful, that makes no sense. So it's probably one of these symbols, either greater than, less than, or equal to. So I know f of x is 3. Do I know what g of x is?
15.
Okay, so could I figure out what g of x is? By plugging in what? 0, because it says when x equals 0 right at the beginning. So then it's 0 squared. This is not an exponential function down here, but it shouldn't matter. You should be able to plug in numbers into any formula. And then plug that into your calculator. You could probably do this on my hand, but still, it's easy to make mistakes when you're tired of all right studying. So there you go. G of x is 15. So which is greater, f of x or g of x? So the alligator mouth should be facing the g of x, like that. And based off that one, I think you can do the other two. There's a typo right here. There should not be that. Don't let that confuse you. It is not that. But yeah, do you need to see the rest of it, or can I trust you to try it? Okay, do you want to do an x equals 3 or an x equals 12? 12. Okay. Yes. All right, so we'll do the last part together then. So when x equals 12, g of x equals blank. So where am I plugging in the 12 into first? Fill in this part of it. The top one or the bottom one? The bottom one, because that one's the g of x. So that's why some people got it wrong earlier. They had the correct answers for both, but this one asked for g of x. Then you plug it in anywhere that there's an x, replace it with 12. That's what function notation tells you to do. Left side, you don't change at all. The right side, you can put in your calculator. So 12 squared plus 15, that's what it looks like before you press equal. I get 159, which is one of my answer options. So that's promising. Throw it over here. So I know g of x is 159. I'm just gonna make a little note to myself because they have it on the right side in the comparison. I still need to figure out what f of x equals. So what do I need to plug into the f of x for that one? What did it say? They wanted an input of 12. So it becomes f of 12. Sorry, the thing kind of froze. F of 12, sorry. 3 times 2 to the 12th power. So make sure I would put this all in my calculator at once to avoid any silly mistake. Like doing 3 times 2 first, and then to the 12th power. That wouldn't be right. Use exponents first. And that's what I get. Now, in comparison, should it be greater than, less than, or equal to? You think 12,288 is less than 159?
No.
Should be greater than. So you also have to look at the order that it's presented, whether they have the f of x first or the g of x first, that would flip your sign. So questions on that one? All right, request, no one's requested off the constructed response, so remember that's 50 points too. Jorge, number 6 on the study guide. Okay. So this one, the graphing one. While you can use Desmos, what you'll probably end up with are two answers that look really similar. So my suggestion would be to make a table of values, just so that you can tell for sure between the two similar ones. So the X's you get to pick. I would pick ones that are near like where all the action is happening. Like I wouldn't pick like -10 or something like that, because that's like not near where all this stuff is different. I'd pick like towards the middle. So like -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. For the Y's, how can I get the Y's? Good, plug them into your given formula. Like that, and then see what you get. And then I would compare that to my answer options and see which one it actually is. Because of course, if I type it into Desmos, it will look similar to each other anyway. So 2.5 to the, and the way that this one reads it, you have to put the exponent in parentheses, otherwise it changes the exponent to subtraction. So it should look like that before you press equals. And I get 0.16, close to the 0. Keep going. So 2.5 to the -1 in parentheses, like that. I get 0.4. Anything to the 0 power is what? 1 actually. That's why I say use your calculator anyway. 2.5 to the first power is 2.5, and then I'll actually plug in the 2. You can plug in all of these, but 2.5 squared is 6.25. So I'm gonna use that table of values to like eliminate until I find the right one. A, is it gonna be A? All right, definitely not gonna be the first one, because that one just is linear when it should be exponential, so not the first one. And this one, it does look like it's at -2.16. At -1, it does look like it could be at 0.4. Stop talking over me. It looks like it's at 0, 1. It looks like it's at 1, 2.5, because it's that middle one would be 3. And it does look like it's to 6 point. Well, it might be. I think it's B. Is it B? Okay. If you look at the other ones, does this one have a point at -2 up 0.16? So that's why it's not C, clearly. If I look at D, it looks like it could have a point at -2.16. But at -1, it's at a +1, isn't it? Not 0.4. So that would eliminate D, which looks very similar to B, but it's not. Same with like, there's no point at 0, 1. That's just empty when there should be something there. So B for that one. Questions? Okay. Let me take a little picture. All right. Any other confusion? Tyson? Number 11. Okay, the coordinate plane shown below shows the graph of an exponential equation in the standard form of it. Which equation best represents the graph? So for this one, I would plug in my answer options into Desmos and see which ones I can eliminate. There may be some that are similar, we'll just have to see. So 3 to the x. Remember, Desmos reads y's and x's. So you could type in y equals 3 to the x. Does that look like this graph? So then it's not going to be A. Or your answers might be shuffled. It's not going to be the first one on my screen. Is it going to be this one? It looks like they're going opposite ways though. So I don't think so on that one. I'll check the answer to be sure, but I don't think so. Let's see if it's going to be the 1/3 to the x power. Does it look like that one?
No.
Okay, so then not that one. Does it look like this one?
Yeah.
Is that the correct answer?
Yeah.
Okay, no one's asked me that one yet, so I don't know the answer. All right, hold on, let me take a picture if it'll let me. All right, any others, maybe from the constructed response, Camille? From this study guide? Okay. All right, no talking. We'll add you to the line. I don't know. I'm in the middle of teaching. So the graph shows a force acting on an object modeled as a function of time. So a positive force pushes the object to the right, a negative force pushes the object to the left. Determine whether each statement is true according to the graph. So the force is constant for 3 seconds. Is that true for any part of the graph? What would constant look like? I agree, it would look flat. So that's 1 second. This is also 1 second. This is 2 seconds. This is 2 seconds. So I don't see anywhere where it's the same for 3 seconds total. So I'm gonna go with false. Also, when you add up where they're always constant, that's more than 3. So let me see how it wants it on your test. But for this one, it's definitely false. All right, yeah, so I guess just if it's in a row, constant. And it's not in this one. So next one. The force is increasing between 3 and 5 seconds. So do I look at the X or the Y? The X, because they said X is time, right? The Y is force. So looking from 3 to 5, is it increasing from here to here?
No.
It's decreasing, so I would say that that's false. The magnitude of the force is greatest between 5 and 7 seconds. So let's see. 5 and 7 seconds is right here. Is that the greatest magnitude of the force? All right, let me think for a second. All right, so you think it's false? Okay, we'll see in a second. I would agree, it looks, cause you have to also realize like 0. Like this is where it's going like in the negative, so here's 0 on your normal traditional coordinate plane. So we'll see if that's right, if it's actually false. And the force acts towards the left for 6 seconds. So it says a positive force pushes the object to the right, a negative force pushes the object to the left. So is it on the left side or in the negative side for 6 seconds? From 4 to 10. You don't think that's 6 seconds?
Oh,
So I think that one's gonna be true. Only one I'm really not sure of is like the middle one, the third one. So let's see, I'm gonna pause it. We'll look at the key. So, okay, we said false, 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 true. And so, I wonder if there's an error on this. The key says true, false, false, true. So let me relook at this graph. I don't think it's constant for 3 seconds, so I'm wondering if that's an error.
5 to 7.
5, 6, 7, that's 2 seconds, isn't it?
Oh, I think I'm 5.
I don't know. I will ask, because I don't know about that. Yes? But it's also constant like here too. So I would think like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if we're counting it like that. So I don't know. I will ask. The force is constant for 3 seconds. So I will ask about that one, see if that's actually true or if that was an error. Because there are sometimes errors because we make these based off of the test. So I will ask. All right, while I figure that out though, any questions on something else? So even if you didn't listen to the sub when she gave directions or whatever, you should have gone to Schoology and looked at the directions. One of them is this assignment. So Unit 5 practice constructed response test. And it says, students will complete this Unit 5 practice constructed response test, paper given out in class by the sub, but also viewable here. So that way you don't necessarily need the papers if you're ever absent. You could do it on your own paper. It's literally only 3 problems, so you can do it on your own paper. And then you submit it by taking a picture of your completed work and uploading it to this link that I clicked on. So as you can see, I have a few submissions from my 3rd hour. In this class, I have quite a bit. That's pretty impressive. But yeah, that's where you submit it. I'm only accepting them physically from people that they were locked out of their computer. So I have a few of yours. If you want yours back, you can come get it if you turn it in, but that's what that is. So make sure you turn it in to get those 20 classwork points. Anyway, number 2 was the request. So we're going to go over that one from the constructed response. Okay. So here's number 2 on the constructed response. If you want to make sure you get this down on your paper, on the one you got yesterday, or in your own notes, either way, you can upload either one. So here is the graph that represents this function, f of x. Just looking at it, is it linear or exponential? Okay, why do you know it's exponential just based off the equation?
It's not linear.
Oh,
Well, no, not because it's f of x.
Because it has an extra power of the.
Good, it has an exponent of x. That's how you know. And yes, you also know because it's not linear. So we've only really learned two types. Anyway, just good FYI. It's represented on this graph. The coordinates of A are 2C. The coordinates of B are 6D. What's the value of D divided by C? So I need to figure out what D and C are. And I do have enough information to figure that out. Because coordinates are always in the order of what? Good, it goes X and then Y. And guess what I have in this equation? I have X's in there. So for like coordinate A, for example, I plug in the X, which is 2, and that should give me my output, which is the Y, also known as C. So it's F of 2 equals 15.36 times 3 to the second power. So everywhere that you're plugging in an X, is going to be a 2. So left side is just notation, the right side, put it in the calculator. Alright, trying to get the calculator up. But 15.36 times 3 squared. Looks like that. And I get 138.24. So that is also my value for the C. All right, and it wants to know what D divided by C is. So my denominator is going to be 138.24. I still need to figure out D. Make sense? How do I figure out D? Plugging in what?
B.
No, not B. Well, you mean coordinate B? Is that what you mean? Okay, what's in the X of coordinate B? Oh, you don't have a paper in front of you? 6, yeah. So then you plug in 6 because that's your X, and that'll give you the output for that coordinate. So it goes F of 6 equals 15.36 times 3 to the 6th power. And then you throw that in your calculator. So change this to a 6. And I get this number for what D is. All right, and then since it's D divided by C that it wants to know what that is, then I'm gonna divide these out like that or. Like that, divided by what C was. And I get an even 81. So my answer for what D over C is 81. Question? Any other questions? Number 4 from the puzzle piece. Okay, stop talking. Susan has a rectangular sheet of plastic that is 40 inches by 35 inches wide. She wants to cut out a square with side lengths of X inches from each corner of the plastic sheet. She will then fold the flaps to make an open up box. The volume, Y in cubic inches, can be expressed as this equation. Susan graphs its function on a coordinate plane. Which of the following could be a possible domain of the function? Weird, I don't recall this being on the test. Let me check. Okay, I think I know. So graph this into Desmos. Guys, do you want to be done? Do you want to just get this one wrong on your test? All right, domain refers to all the what in a function? No clue? All the x's in a function, thank you. So what I think this is asking, so I typed in my thing into Desmos, my equation. And what I think it's asking is for what we call zeros. So like where it touches on your x-axis. None of those are answer options, so that might not help. Okay, but why?
I guess because you said see the good one.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I do remember how to do this. Okay, sorry, backtrack. So you see all the x's and you know how domain is all your x's? So plug in these answers and see if you get something that makes sense. So like if I plug in 15 for the x, my answer is 18.75. Hold on. I still have one more x. Hold on. So would this make sense for my volume to be negative? So then it's not going to be A because that gives me a negative volume and that doesn't make sense. So then you plug in the others like this. I don't know why this is on your test. Hopefully they fixed it. I don't know. But you should still be able to solve it. Does this one make sense? No. No, the one I entered, the 20.5. Does this answer make sense? So then you keep going down the list. All right, does this answer make sense? Okay, let's see if making it negative changes anything. Does this answer make sense? No, because it's negative. I shouldn't have a negative volume. So that is why it's 7. I know you guys are telling me it's 7, but I bet you just guessed correctly. I don't know that you actually knew what to do. So that's what you do. You plug it in, see if it makes sense.